Welcome to the Freewheel Rack Carryall installation video. Your rack carryall arrives with all you need to set it up on your individual wheelchair. Step 1 is the installation of the bumper that screws into the underside of your rack. Start by attaching it in the middle and then tighten the screws. Later in the installation, you may find you need to move it forward or backwards on the rack based on how your freewheel fits in relation to the vertical tubing on the front of your wheelchair. Next is to install the ball fittings. Start by sliding the washer onto the screw and then insert the screw through the slot at the end of the rack. Attach the ball fitting but do not completely tighten. At this point in the setup, the fitting should slide back and forth in the slot. With the socket assembly, you will need to insert the 3 O-rings into the back of each socket. Once they are pushed in, slide the lock all the way down the socket until it stops, and then insert and tighten the retaining screw. It may be easier to initially thread the retaining screw into the lock before sliding it onto the socket. There are 2 foam bands with your rack carryall. Begin by measuring 11 inches from the ground. This is where the top of the foam band will go on each vertical tubing. Remove the backing from the foam and wrap around the vertical tube on each side. To install the socket, you will insert the zip ties through the holes on the back, one at the top of the socket and one at the bottom. Next, you will carefully align so the socket is centered on the foam facing forward. Securely tighten down the zip tie so it does not move. Then snip off the excess zip tie. With the freewheel on your chair, set the rack on the freewheel frame and insert the ball fittings into the sockets. Sometimes using a little lubricant on the ball sockets makes it easier to insert it into the socket the first time. When the rack is properly centered, tighten down the screws to hold the ball settings in the correct position. This is also where you want to make sure the bumper is sitting as close to the top of the freewheel curve as possible. You can move the bumper backward or forward by removing the screws and reinstalling. You are now ready to use your rack carryall. Enjoy!